Namaskar, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal, Vadakkam. All these form the part of the diversity that we have. So today we would be starting with one of the most interesting topics, and that is languages. Now, in India, we have so much diversity that has been seen around us. From the Indo-Aryan groups in the north to the Dravidian language systems in the south, we have numerous languages that are part of it. Initially we had 14 languages which were part of our constitution, but later on you have new languages which were added to it, and you have 22 languages which are part of it now. So what we would be understanding today is this system of language. Now this system of language is important. Let's say if I am here communicating in English but none of you are able to comprehend English, then definitely this communication is not useful. Might be you would be able to guess something that is there on the board. If it is a graphic, if it is a language again there, then it would become difficult to comprehend. So language is a sole mean of communication. So when we talk about means of communication, we need to understand firstly the language families. Now broadly, when we say language families, due to the similar roots they have similarities in one form or another. So it's easier to comprehend, to understand the languages which are from the same language family. So any of the language from Indo-Aryan or any of the language from Dravidian would have similarities, and that would be easily comprehended by a person who knows one of those languages. So that is first thing. The second important thing is dialects. Within the languages we have dialects. Now dialects change with local area. We say कोस पे भाषा बदलती है. That is, with every few miles that you go, you have a change in a dialect that is seen, and it's not the change in the language. So these dialects represent the local area and the local population. So what we would understand today is the subdivisions of the previously discussed divisions that were here. So in the previous divisions, as we have seen, we have talked about the Indo-Aryan groups, Dravidian, Sino-Tibetan, Negroids and Austric, and then you have others. However, the two major ones are the Indo-Aryans and the Dravidians. Now, let's talk about the Indo-Aryan language family. This Indo-Aryan language family is further subdivided under three branches: the old, the mid and the modern. Under the old, we have the Ved, Upanishad, Puran, Dharma Shastra, which are part of it. Then you have the Mahakavya, which are the epics, and then you have the Khandakavyas, which are the semi-epics, which are part of it. Sanskrit was one of the major languages, or we could say the root language that was used during that time, and it is one of the 22 languages of the constitution. And then you have Ashtadhyayi, which is one of the major books that reveal about the development and the wordings of Sanskrit. So Sanskrit became one of the major languages during the old Indo-Aryan period. Again, you had Buddhism in the Hindyan and the Mahayana schools that had the Buddhist literature that had findings from these languages that were seen during the old Indo-Aryan period. The next is the mid-Indo-Aryan language group. Now this language group predominantly owes its origin to Buddhism and Jainism. Jainism during that time started with Prakrit, which was a kind of language of common man, so that the common man can understand. Sanskrit was considered to be a language of Brahmins during that time, and only one who was well versed with Vedas and Upanishads could understand Sanskrit. However, the common man had the language of Prakrit, and to make the verses reach the common people, it was very, very important that Prakrit, which was a common man's language, was introduced. So this middle Indo-Aryan group language focuses on Pali and Prakrit as the main sect, and then you have Magdi, Ardh Magdi as the modifications of these language groups that were seen. The next important language group is the modern. Now modern language group includes all the languages that you see as of now. So Hindi, Assamese, Bengali, Gujarati, Marathi are all part of this modern Indo-Aryan language group. So under the Indo-Aryan groups, we have understood the old, middle and the modern groups, and then we have the next set of language, which is the Dravidian language. Now, Dravidian language can be further classified under three heads: northern, central, and southern. The northern group consists of three important languages, and those are the Bhari, Malto, and Khuruk. Now, the central language, which is mainly the tribal belt, which you could see. So, you have Gondi language, Khond, Parji, Gadaba as some of the major languages. You have 11 major languages which form the central Dravidian language system. The next important one is the southern. Now, the southern is one of the most popular language systems that you are well familiar with. So, 7 important languages. You have Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam as some of the major languages. Then you also have Tulu, Kota as another important languages. Now, among all these southern languages, or I could say among all these Dravidian languages, Tamil language has a very importance because it is one of the oldest and the purest form of language that is considered. So, Tamil is one of the founding languages of the Dravidian language system, we could say. Again, if we talk about numerically speaking population, you have Telugu, which has the highest number of speakers in the central Dravidian language system. So, Telugu has numerically, in numbers when we say, highest number of speakers that are seen among these systems. And from these all Dravidian languages, the major 4 language systems that we say, the Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam and Tamil, you have Malayalam, which has the smallest number of people who are speaking Malayalam, and also it is considered as youngest of the Dravidian language system. So it is considered as one of the youngest languages. Okay, it's not the youngest speakers, it's the youngest language per se. The next is Sino-Tibetan. The Sino-Tibetan has its origin from the Mongolite system. So, Sino means China and Tibet is the autonomous region of China. So, Sino-Tibetan language system originates from there. It has 2 further subdivisions, Tibeto-Burma and Siamese. So, Siamese, the major language is Ahom. So, the Ahom culture has slowly and gradually got extinct in the Indian subcontinent, has been one of the major cultures. And then you have the Tibeto-Burman culture. Tibeto-Burman, you again have 4 classes or 4 categories. The first is the Tibetan language system. The Tibetan language system includes Sikkimese, Bhutia, and then you have Lahuli as some of the major languages. Under the Himalayan system, you have Kinnori and Limbu as the major languages. So as you can see, Tibetan language system in the regions closer to Sikkim, Himalayan language system in the regions closer to Uttarakhand, and then you have the regions closer to North Assam. You have Abhor, Miri, Aka, Dalfa as some of the major languages, and the last one is the Assamese Burmese language system. Assamese Burmese language system, you have Kukichin as one of the major language systems, and under the Kukichin you have 2 further language systems. One is Manipuri and the other is Mithi. So both of those are part of the Assamese Burmese language system. So these two, the Siamese and the Tibeto-Burman, are part of the Sino-Tibetan language system. The next is the Austric language system. Now, Austric language system belongs to Austro-Asiatic family, the language of Mundas and Khols. So, Mundas and Khols are the 2 major groups which have basically the Austric origin, and the region of Mon Khmer is one of the primary regions along with the Nicobaris. The region of Nicobar, the Nicobarese population has the Austric population, the Austric language system that is seen. And then you have others which include the language of the tribals, mainly the Dravidian Adivasis, which we say. So Gondi, Oraon are some of the major languages which are falling under the category of others. So those were some of the major parts of our language system. Coming on to the next is the official language of India. Now Hindi is the Devanagari script. Hindi in the Devanagari script is considered as one of the major languages. English has been given as a status of the subsidiary official language, and then under the Official Language Act 1963 we have the enactments that came under the official act, through which Law would be maintained, law and judiciary would be maintained only in English language. Initially 14 languages were there which were part of the Indian official language act that was there. However, in later years, the 15th language that was added was the Sindhi language, and this was added through the 21st Amendment Act in 1967. Later on, three more languages were added in 1992, and these three languages were the Konkani language, the Manipuri language, and the Nepali language. So three languages added in 1992, and then you had four other languages which were part of the official 8th schedule, and these four languages were added in 2003, and these four languages are Bodo, Maithili, Dogri and Santhali. So Bodo, Maithili, Dogri and Santhali were the four languages that were added in 2003. India does not say that we have a national language. We do not have, we are a country with no national language, as simple as that. Hindi is not a national language. Language has to be adopted by various states. Now still, you have certain languages which have not been listed as official language. For example, French is spoken in Puducherry, but it's not an official language. Mizo is spoken by people of Mizoram, but it's not an official language. So you have languages which are there but are not in the category of official language. However, on the other hand, if we look onto the states of Nagaland and Meghalaya, English is the official language. So in the state of Meghalaya, in the state of Nagaland, you have English as the official language. However, English is not listed in the 22 scheduled languages of India. So that is how we understand how languages vary and the new languages that have been added through the various constitutional amendments. The next is the status of classical language. In 2004, Government of India declared the languages that meet certain criteria would be considered as the classical language. Now, what was the criteria? That's important to understand. The first criteria was they should have a lot of text, early text that could be written in that language for a period of, let's say, 1500 or 2000 years or so. So a kind of history of that language is important to maintain it as a classical language. The next is a lot of literature must be available. Government must have generation of speakers that could be seen in that language to consider that as a classical language, and then this would demarcate a classical language from a modern language. So what languages have been so far declared as a classical language by India has been important. So in 2004, when it started, the first language to become or to be classified as a classical language was Tamil. Later in 2005, we had Sanskrit. So Sanskrit from the Indo-Aryan, Tamil from the Dravidian language group. So in 2005, Sanskrit was declared as a classical language. In 2008, you had Telugu that was declared as a classical language. In 2008, again, you had another language from the Dravidian belt, which was Kannada, which was declared as a classical language. In 2013, you had Malayalam. So a clean sweep, we could say, for the four major Dravidian languages. All four of those Dravidian languages are part of the classical language systems. And in 2014, you had Odia, and that was also part of the classical language. Now, Center of Excellence of Studies in Classical Languages have been established in some of the major universities in India to promote this mission. The next important thing that we would understand is the National Translation Mission. Now, National Translation Mission aims to disseminate the knowledge of one language to other languages. So let's say you had Tiruvallur, and the knowledge of Tiruvallur needs to be passed on to generations following the Indo-Aryan language group. So therefore, the translation of the text becomes very, very important. Now, this National Translation Mission aims to convert all the pedagogic material into other languages that are considered under the official schedule. The next is the linguistic diversity of India. Now, linguistic diversity of India is the probability that two persons selected from the population of different mother tongues would be there. So this linguistic diversity varies from 0 to 1. 0 is where everyone has the same mother tongue. So it could be as simple as that. An Indian scenario, you could take an example of a household, a traditional household where all of the speakers would follow the same mother language or the same mother tongue. The next is 1. 1 is where no two people have the same mother tongue. So, both of the speakers cannot basically communicate, and there is a linguistic diversity index of 1. So, this linguistic diversity index helps us to form or find or create a computation based on each language as a proportion of the total population, and that's how we understand the variety or the kind of vitality of the languages that could be seen in the Indian system. The next important term that you must be familiar with is lingua franca. Now, lingua franca, simply put, is a bridge language. So, it's a bridge language, a kind of common or a vehicular language that could connect the native speakers and the native dialects to a kind of another language which is closer to it. So, it creates a kind of boundary or a kind of bridge language as it acts. So it's one of the major ways through which humanity is trying to get connected to. So that was one of the major topics that we have discussed from Indian culture. We would be covering many interesting topics under Indian culture and art. Stay tuned for many more updates. Have a wonderful evening.